I see 2 o'clock, so we'll kick off this Building and Safety Enterprise Fund Advisory Committee agenda. And we'll call to order.
Chair Potter,
Here.
Member Tatum,
Here.
Member Lloyd Ligos,
Here.
Member Cunningham,
Here.
Member Frias. Excused, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll do our announcement regarding compliance with open meeting law. Comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed may be limited. And I look out in the audience and I see no one. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item. For possible action to approve the final minutes by reference of the regular meeting of April 14th, 2025. I presume we need a motion for that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Aye.
I will second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so passed. So we'll move on to item 5, report by Michael Cunningham. It won't be his last, but it'll be the first for today. Deputy Community Development Director and Building Official regarding the 2024 code adoption.
All right, good morning. For the record, Michael Cunningham, Deputy Community Development Director. So this item, we had kind of a carryover because during the last meeting we were still in the process of the code adoption. We have fully adopted. It was adopted at the July City Council meeting. Our effective date is on January 5th. So between now and then, contractors, developers have the option to submit under either code. We have gotten more than I thought we would have gotten in this interim, but we have gotten quite a few projects already submitted to the 2024 code. And we're continuing to work with the home builders on some of their grandfathering of some of their subdivisions and working out those fine details. But fully adopted and kind of just moving forward now.
Very good, thank you, Michael. Any comments from the board on that issue?
Yes, Member Tatum, for the record, question for you in terms of the deadline in which permits that were submitted under the 2018 code or the 2021 code, I can't remember which one it would be here. What's the end date in which they would need to pull those permits?
So the way we wrote that in there is they have to submit their application by January 5th. Then they just can't let it expire. So they technically have 6 months after that. We didn't have the January 5th date be the approved date. We just had to be the submittal date. So as long as they submit by January 5th, they can stay under the 18 if it's residential, 21 if it's commercial.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for that response and question. Okay, so we'll now move to item 7, report by Michael Cunningham, Deputy Community Development Director and Building Official regarding the Enterprise Fund budget for fiscal year 2026. Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped forward. Okay, regarding the Enterprise Fund budget for fiscal year 2025, correction, Chair.
All right, thank you again. For the record, Michael Cunningham, Deputy Community Development Director. So as part of the backup, you got the our end of year report for the fiscal year 2025 budget. Unfortunately, it did end up, we ended up in the red. We had discussed it in quite a few meetings that we were kind of trending down. I was hoping we were going to get a little bit more volume to get out of there, but it did not work out. So just going over the high level, on our revenue, we ended up at $13,897,222, which is 84% of what we projected. So we didn't quite get to where our projections were, and that was mainly due just because the slowdown in the permit submissions. On our expense side, we were able to save some money, so we only spent 90% of what we were projected, but we did end up spending $16,069,220, which put us at a negative for the year of $2,180,228. I did want to point out in June we had a large transfer. We needed to rectify our deferred revenue account. We ran a report. There was some stuff on there that was off, so we had to do a big transfer in June. So if you look on our revenue under structural permits, you'll see for that month it actually shows a negative revenue. That was us putting our money in the deferred revenue account. So that's funds we still have. It's just in our deferred revenue, and then as those projects complete, that'll then get realized back into our revenue accounts. Everything else on the budget expense-wise, there was nothing really that stood out as far as an outlier on expenses. You can see most of our items we ended under budget. One we talk about frequently is our professional services. So we spent 70% of what that was budgeted. So we spent 1.2 million, where we had budgeted 1.8. So as we talked about in the past with the slowdown in revenue, we're not having to rely on the consultants as much, and we're able to keep more in, which has two effects. One, it gives us a savings from having to send it out to the consultants and pay them, and then it also just keeps our internal staff busy with the workload. And then with that, I can answer any questions if there's anything specific you would like to discuss.
Member Tatum, for the record, it's a question that probably could be addressed in this topic or the next one, but from what you've learned in terms of the projections for 2025, how was that applied, being carried forward in terms of future projections?
For the record, Michael Cunningham, Deputy Community Development Director. Yeah, so our budget season starts pretty early. We usually start around November-ish time frame when we start looking at it. So our projections were back then, but we did take that into account. If you recall, at our last meeting, we were submitting a negative budget, so we did submit a budget that showed we are anticipating to lose money next year. We're still trying to do everything we can to offset that. But we did use that, and we kind of took it into account, and that's what we've been using just on expenditures in general, and any staffing decisions. We've been using those projections to kind of make those decisions.
Any other questions?
No questions for 2025. for this topic.
This is Chair. I have one. How much was that transfer in June?
For the record, Michael Cunningham, Deputy Community Development Director. I'll have to check and get back to you on what the exact transfer was. It's showing that we lost negative 667,682, but I don't believe that was the transfer number. I think the transfer number was a little bit higher, and it just ended up because we actually did collect revenue, so I will need to get back with you at the next meeting with that number.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, for the record, we'll move on to number 7, which is report by Michael Cunningham, Deputy Community Development Director and Building Official, regarding the enterprise fund budget for fiscal year 2026.
All right, again, for the record, Michael Cunningham's Deputy Community Development Director. So you can see on the report as the backup, we have 2 months worth of data to report out. We're currently at 15% of our total projected revenue. So we've made a little over $1 million. The unfortunate part is we still did lose money in July and August. If you look in August, there's the increase in salaries and wages, and that just had to do with the amount of checks and payments that hit the account in August. So there's a little bit of a higher number there. Expense-wise, we're staying pretty low. We're at 14%, so we're kind of tracking along with our revenues. As I mentioned, given the fact that we are in the red for both months, we have held off on our positions that are currently vacant. So we have a few inspector positions that are vacant. We have a permit tech position that's vacant, an ASA position that's vacant, and a supervisor position that's vacant. We're holding off on all of those. The only filling we did do, since our last meeting, we did have 2 of our inspectors retire. We thought that might be too hard to kind of absorb and be able to keep up with the demand of the industry, so we did fill those 2 positions. But we have multiple other inspector positions that we're holding off on, but we didn't think we could go below what our current count is, so we filled those positions. We'll talk about a little bit later. For the last meeting, you guys had questions on some of the government cost allocation, and there's an item later in the agenda that we'll talk about that. All our other items are kind of tracking. We're continuing to try to limit the amount of money that we're using for the consultants. If you look at the backup, with the end of the year transfer, we had to get new PO, so you see there's no money for other professional services. We did still use consultants for those 2 months. It's just we got the POs just paid, so we're going to be paying those now. So on your next report, you'll see what we actually spent in those 2 months. But we're tracking what we typically spend on the consultants right now. And with that, I can answer any questions if there are any.
Anybody got the crystal ball?
Member Tatum, for the record, just a quick question. Thank you for the update. You've already kind of hit on the things that you've talked about with the professional services. Is there anything else kind of at a high level that you would say procedurally or from a method of approach that you're doing to try to limit the costs?
For the record, Michael Cunningham, Deputy Community Development Director. So the other professional services is one of our biggest discretionary line items. So that's the largest pot we have to kind of play with. Most of our other fees or other expenses are, discretionary in nature, but we don't have a lot of control over mileage, gas, things like that. Training, we are trying to limit the amount of training that we're doing. We're still giving our employees training. They can still go to trainings and to get their CEUs for their certs, but we're being mindful with travel and training. So any of those types of items, we're also trying to minimize just until we can get through this slump. Obviously, salaries are what they are. We're limiting overtime as much as we can. We still got to, keep up with the demand of the industry. And then we're just not filling the positions. So I'd say the two biggest ways for us to save money is holding off on filling positions and then our flexibility with the consultants.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, Michael. And we'll move on to item number 8. We have a report by Gail, Director of Finance, regarding government cost allocation for year 2026.
Good afternoon. Gail Lloyd-Licos, Director of Finance. So this afternoon, I'll just give you a brief overview of the general government cost allocation and the components that we include in it. The general government cost allocation is a term used by the city to allocate the shared services functions to enterprise funds and internal service funds. Some samples of shared services are finance, HR, IT, city management, mayor, and council. For fiscal year 2026, to the Building and Safety Enterprise Fund, there's $3.2 million in total general government cost allocation, and the different components are highlighted on the page, from building depreciation to the Office of the Mayor. And I'll kind of go into a brief description of what each of those items are. So for building depreciation, that is just the cost of the space that Building and Safety is occupying in City Hall, which is about 21,000 square feet in the city building, plus other city facilities as well, like at the West Yard. So that's about $98,000. City attorney is about $60,000. That's the cost associated with labor relations, transactions, any litigation. The biggest component is city clerk at approximately 1.4 million. It is not just so part of it is the meeting that we're having right now, and making sure that we're in compliance with open meeting law and all the public reporting and recording is done. But it also includes our enterprise records management, which currently for building and safety, there's over 30,000 files that are stored on both hard copy and boxes in a warehouse, and also 4.5 million images on digital plans. With the digital plans, those are not, as you're aware, they're not just 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. So the images take up much more space digitally, even in the cloud. This also provides us with redundancy. So if there would be a cyber attack, there is redundancy on these files so that we could be up and operational in a very short amount of time. That will tie in also to the IT cost that is allocated here. City management or city manager's office, that's just the overall cost of leadership, guidance, day-to-day operations, and that's $85,000. In finance, it's $267,000. That includes the accounting, treasury functions, financial state preparation, any other NRS requirements that we have to do, as well as purchasing and contracts and payroll. For IT and technology, it's about $642,000. That is, a lot of that actually is cybersecurity, and we are always continuing to enhance our cybersecurity as well as redundancy. Also the IT business partners, which is a position in IT that focuses on certain departments and they're responsible for it, so that if there isn't some type of technology issue, it can be escalated through those IT business partners for a quick and timely resolution. For HR, it's $287,000, and that includes your typical HR functions: recruitment, training, development, labor relations, union negotiations, class comp, as well as benefit management. Internal audit, that is the cost for the internal audit of $234,000, and that is where they come in and they look at either workflow, procedures, processes, and they make sure that we have strong internal controls, efficiency, and are mitigating our risk. Office of Communications is $61,000. That includes any mail services, printing, reproduction, if there is any social media, communications, video productions. And then the last component is Office of Mayor and Council for $124,000, and that is really just the cost of their setting the city vision and priorities, passing ordinances, resolutions, approving the budget, and representing the community interest in total. And that's kind of the end of the presentation. I'm not sure if you have any questions, and I know it was a real high-level overview of what the components are.
This is Chair Potter. I have a couple questions. Those numbers that you just reflected, are those the ones that total up to the 3.2 million?
Yes.
And what percentage of that is the 3.2 represent of your overall budget? We know it's 3.2 million, but I mean,
Oh.
does it come down to a percentage in some form or another?
Do you mean of the, Gail Lloyd-Licos, Director of Finances, do you mean of the city's budget, what the percentage
Yeah,
of 3 million
however
is?
you calculate that, you compare it to something.
We look at the city and the functions that are listed on there,
Right.
the different, like, city attorney, city clerk, and then we look at how much of what they do applies to to specifically the Building and Safety Enterprise Fund, and that's how we come up with that. So we lay out all the different enterprise funds and internal service funds, and we look at how much of service do these different departments provide to each individual one.
That I understand. I'm just saying, if you compared that to the overall revenue base or expense base, I guess it would be better, the expense base of those items that you're using, is it like 5%, 8%, 12%?
Oh,
I'm just trying to get a handle on that.
it would vary. So like, we'll say city clerk because there's record retention and there's so much involved with building and safety because those records are forever. Like building and safety will have a higher percentage of city clerk, we'll say, than they do of finance. Does that answer your question?
It's close, I think, Michael.
Okay.
And for the record, Michael Cunningham, Deputy Community Development Director. I think what you're getting, correct me if I'm wrong, so back before we did this type of breakdown, it used to be a percentage base. So it was, we made, our salaries was this, and the general government cost was 5% of that expenditures. This type of calculation, it doesn't take that into account, so it's not a flat percentage. As Gil was stating, it depends on how much we use that service, and then based on that, it's a percentage of what those costs are, and that comes to us. So it's not a flat fee. I can't say just as an overall number, it's about 19% of our expenditures, but it's a breakdown of different departments.
Okay, Chair Potter, yes, thank you, because obviously the biggest chunk was on the records, as it should be. Thank you. Any other, Vincent?
Member Tatum, for the record, no, I was going to say really good question because I was kind of leaning to the same one that you had, but I do want to say I really like the presentation and the format of how you broke it out with the categorical descriptions. It makes it very easy to understand. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. So now we'll go to item number 9, report by Michael Cunningham, Deputy Community Development Director and Building Official regarding projects with significant impact to the Building and Safety Division resources and help us make black ink.
Yeah, so for the record, Michael Cunningham, Deputy Community Development Director. Geez, I can't speak today. So even though our numbers aren't where we would like them to be right now, we do still have a lot of stuff going on in the city. I do want to clarify. I mean, we still have work. It's just with the cost of our salaries and stuff going up, coupled with the fact that there has been a little bit of slowdown, it's just put us in this spot, and we'll be correcting it with the fee study. But there's still plenty of work going on in the city, and so today we'll highlight some of those projects and then answer any questions that you have. So similar format, I'll start out just as the city as a whole. A couple of projects I wanted to highlight. These ones are all actually in plan review right now. So Ansley at Tivoli Village is a 5-story, 300 apartment unit complex. So if you've been out in the Tivoli area, they're continuing to add on those apartment buildings out there and finish building out that complex there. Marble Manor, you might have heard that one. That one's been in the news. There's a pretty big grant that the city has been working with the Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority on redoing all of Marble Manor. We've issued their demo permits already. Their phase 1 is coming in for, I think it's 5 of their buildings, 5 or 6 of their buildings is in plan review now. Out in the northwest, we got Sky Canyon. They got their new police substation and park that they're building out there. So it's a police substation coupled with one of their regional parks that'll be used out for the Sky Canyon residents. And then the Golden Apartments is another 3-story mixed-use building that we have in plan review. So we're seeing a lot of multifamily, a lot of residential units coming in. One of the other items I usually hit on in this one is our large projects. So we have a large projects report that we track, and it breaks projects down to projects that are over $500,000 and then projects that are between that $100,000 and $500 valuation. So on the first start, the $100,000 to $500,000 in valuation, currently we have 86 projects in review totaling $19,126,000. And that's actually up from what it was the last time we met. Last time we met, we only had 78 projects in the queue for that. And then our large projects that are over $500,000 in valuation, we have 85 of those in, totaling a valuation of $741,000. That one, the permit number's up, so we had 79 the last time we met. The valuation's down slightly, but the total number of permits is up. And then that gives us a total of 171 permits in review for $760 million. So like I said, there's still a lot of work going on. We'd love to see more of it, but we're doing good right now. And then moving on, so Civic Plaza, as you guys can see, we're in the new building. It is open. This building, the main building we're in now, is occupied by the city, but the building along Bonneville is going to be leased out, and they have 2 leases already. So the second floor of the building is about 13,000 square foot in the patio area. That's the Vegas Chamber is going to be utilizing that space. And then Workforce Connections is going to be taking the fourth floor in that building for 16,435 square feet. There's also a couple of food and beverage tenant spaces that our economic urban development team is working with. So we'll see those permits coming in at some point too, once they get those deals all ironed out. Moving on to the medical district, there's a new developer that EUD is working with called Parting Seas. It's a 4-story medical office building with a 5-story parking garage. It's one of the UMC anchor tenants, so it's going to be over off of Shadow and Wellness, where that area continues to kind of develop. We'll have some ground floor retail space in it and some other mixed use space, so a continuation of trying to develop out and build the medical district. Along the medical district, this building we've actually already permitted. So this is the Women's Cancer Center. I think I talked about this one at one of our previous presentations. But one of their 3rd floor was a shell space. They've worked with Nevada State University to turn that into a clinic lab that's going to be used for medical and educational instruction and treatment. So the UNLV medical school's down there, and then this is kind of to support that for some additional educational stuff for medical fields. The Arts District's garage is next. So Arts District does continue to build. We continue to see more tenants down there, more restaurants and bars moving in. And with that, you need parking. If you've been down there, sometimes parking can be a challenge. We've permitted this one. We actually just permitted it last week. It's a city garage that the city is building. It's the Arts District garage. It will have some ground floor space as well and provide much needed parking for the Arts District area. Another one in the Arts District, this is the Z-Life Midtown. So this developer, the first phase of this is in, it's called the English Residence. It's a couple buildings that's going to be a condo hotel concept. This one's going to be a multi-phase project. It's called Midtown. 174 apartments, 214 hotel rooms. It has some food and beverage space, some commercial space, and some office space. The first phase, like I said, is in now. It's around the same area as the English Hotel. It's the same developer. She has purchased a lot of that property, and she is slowly taking down and going to start to develop this project now. So this one will be a good one for us for the next few years. And then Area 15, this one, if you've driven by it, you see it looks pretty much done. Universal is open, the main anchor tenant there. All the other tenants are starting to come in. We have a few of them that are almost at issuance, a few of them that are issued and almost at C of O. So we're continuing just to see these spaces build out. So it'll be a lot of work for us on both the plan review side and the inspection side. There's been hints on District 3. So if you recall, that developer does own more land to the north, and they own some of those residential properties north of that. So I'm assuming they haven't given us any specific details, just that they're looking at it. So I'm assuming sometime next year we might start to talk with them about some of the District 3 improvements and just continuing to build out that entertainment district right there. And then Desert Pines, this is one of the development agreements that we've talked about. This one's getting really close to coming to fruition for us in terms of permitting. So again, as a reminder, it's 1,500 housing units. It's going to be rent, for sale, affordable, mixed income, market rate, just a little bit of everything. They have some open space there for the residents. In the top right corner, you'll see that not a part that's reserved out for a CSN training center. So we did the CSN, or the city worked with CSN as a partnership to build the West Side Training Center. This is going to be the East Side Training Center, so it gets some more workforce development in the area. And they're looking to begin construction in 2026. Just as a reminder, this is the Desert Pines Golf Course, so obviously the first phase of that will be getting it ready for development. And then moving on to Symphony Park. This is a new medical office building. I mentioned it briefly last time, but we didn't have any real renderings or anything of it. So this is the spot that's adjacent to the Lou Reveau Center. It's an additional medical office building to support those services down there. It's 100,000 square feet, a total investment of a little over $40 million. Estimated to generate 388 jobs with the economic output of 66 million. And it's the parcel J, which is just a little over 1 acre. This one's not a huge project, but I always just like to show what's going on in Symphony Park and continuing to build that out. So along with the Museum of Art that we've talked about a couple times on these projects, there's a sculpture park on one of the open space parcels that they're working with. So they're working with some developers to get that one, to just add an additional incentive and amenity for the Symphony Park residents. And then speaking of the Las Vegas Museum of Art, a media lab. So they're going to have adjacent to this will be the garage they'll use. This has some ground floor space. The city's worked with them to give them a leasable space of just over 15,000 square feet. It'll be a turnkey museum space that they'll have their main back-of-house offices on there, and then they'll have a media lab exhibition space for some of the artists before it moves over to the Museum of Art building once that's completed. And then this one has a pretty big potential for us. A lot of these slides I get from our EUD department. Tracy over there helps me out because they see a lot of these projects before we even hear about them. This was one of the ones that she told me about. So the RDA, which is the redevelopment agency, is exploring an expansion. So there's 2 areas right now. On the map you see in front of you, the light blue area is where they're looking to do an expansion. I don't know that it's going to end this way or that it's even close at this point, but they're exploring it. Obviously, if the RDA does expand, that does generate a high potential for us to get more permit activity. That's the whole function of the RDA, is to help support redevelopment and offer incentives to these parcels and try to pull developers in to start building on these and redevelop them. So if this was to move forward, this would have a pretty big impact on us, I would believe, in terms of permitting and inspections. And that is all I have for you this meeting, unless you guys have any questions for me.
Member Tatum, for the record, just want to say thank you for doing that. Always incredibly helpful to kind of get a sense of what's coming down the pike and how that'll affect everything that you've kind of briefed us earlier on in terms of permitting, evaluations, and stuff like that. So greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Excellent job, Chair Potter. Okay, item 10, report by David Cross, Fire Plans Review Section Manager, regarding updates on Las Vegas fire and rescue issues that can affect the administration and finances of the building and safety, excuse me, enterprise. Excuse me for that. Such as updates on the sprinkler inspections, plan review, and/or fees. Mr. Cross.
Chair, David Cross for the record, Fire Plans Review Section Manager. So for the last 6 months, we've actually seen an increase in our plan review volume of about 20%. So we're trending upwards. We've met our goals of the 14-day turnaround. We increased our percentage 1% total, but we're meeting our goals 80% of the time of turning those reviews around in the 14-day window that we're looking at. And for our inspections, we have seen a 9% increase, or a total of 6,000 inspections over the last 6 months. But overall, from last year, at the same time, plan review is up 14.4%, and our overall inspection volume is down about 1.8%. So we're a little steady with our inspections and a little heavy with our plan review, which just means the next 6 months our inspections are probably going to pick up, right? Because we're reviewed. With regards to any other items, we are working with Mr. Cunningham on the fee study to go through and make sure that we're capturing any fees that we need to capture to increase and recover. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Board, I'm sure we have some questions.
Yes, Member Tatum, for the record, thank you for the update. I know the fee study was kind of mentioned in the previous briefing, but could you remind us as to when the fee study will be concluded and kind of what next steps might look like in terms of communication to the public about its impact?
David Cross, for the record. Yeah, so we're shooting to have it wrapped up for discussion by January, February. That is a lofty goal with some of the items that we have to go through and update, but that is where we are looking to run our update. So we would probably have a much better idea, at our April meeting.
Okay, and just as a follow-up, once you have that by the April meeting, what do you believe that the communication plan would be to the community?
If I could defer to Mr. Cunningham.
For the record, Michael Cunningham, Deputy Community Development Director, through you, Chair. So yeah, so the fee study, the lofty goal is, because as you can see with our revenues, what they are, we're trying to make sure we can get it in. Our hopes is to try to have it effective. Obviously, it has to go through council, and we have to meet with industry once we get more defined terms on what the increase is going to look like. But we're trying to have it by July. What I'm hoping is we can get far enough along in the process that we can start to talk to industry around that January timeframe to give them an idea of here's what we're looking at. Start having some stakeholder meetings, probably bring it up at NCA, at the Home Builders Association, at the trades that we meet with, IAPMO, all of them, so that they're continually knowing it's coming. And then once we have a specific number, and we've met with council and everyone kind of agrees to the term, then we'll do more direct outreach to say what it's going to be. Like I said, our hopes with just the way our revenues are is to have it go into effect next fiscal year. There's a lot riding on that. We have a lot of meetings we have to meet with the consultant. We have a meeting next week. We have another meeting with them the week after that. So we'll probably be meeting with them monthly. I think, as you know, we always try to keep the industry up to date. So as I get more and more dates and we get more and more close, I'll make sure it's always mentioned, and we'll send out industry notices. And then obviously we'll give this board an update where we're at in April.
All right, Member Tatum, for the record, thank you for that. Appreciate that. And then just to confirm, so January of 2026, you think it'll start being socialized more in terms of the nature of the types of things being contemplated with the changes? Okay.
Yeah, we should have, so we're hoping to have kind of the base of it figured out by then, and then we'll do fine tweaks over those next few months. And then again, depending on the meetings and how much we run into and how much we end up having to change, that might get delayed a little bit, but that's kind of our goal right now. And unless revenues or something changes drastically, then we might be able to consider slowing down a little bit. But right now we're floor to the metal, or pedal to the metal. I can't think.
Member Tatum, for the record, thank you. And just to clarify, Mr. Cross, was it that the permit trend right now for the fire department is on the rise? Was I understanding that properly from the update?
David Cross, for the record. So the plan reviews have been on the rise a little bit. We're actually seeing a little bit of a slowdown in numbers of permits coming through, but the numbers of reviews that we've been completing has been on the rise the last two sessions. So we're hopeful that it's going to continue that way, and a lot of that has to do with how the building department is doing to bring in those building permits.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Potter, one other question, Mr. Cross. When you count like a multifamily, is that just one permit, or is it multiple ones because there's 300 units, let's say, in that apartment complex, or do you count that just as one, like a single family?
David Cross for the record. So we look at it by the system. So for our purposes, we have a building department review on the multifamily building, which we would review that, and then each system that goes within that building, like fire sprinklers, that's usually one permit. Fire alarm is another permit. The standpipe and fire pump. So each of the system components that go within those buildings, those are separate permits that we would have reviews on.
Very good. Chair, if I could take that one step further, if it's a condo project with, let's say 50 condos, would that then represent 50 separate permits, one for each APN number?
For the record, David Cross. Again, it depends on if it's a separate building. So if it's one building with multiple condos within it, then no, it's still system permit. So if there's 4 condos in one building, that would be one system permit for sprinkler review. If it's 4 different buildings, then yes, it would be 4 separate permits, if that helps answer your question.
Yes, Chair Potter. Thank you very much. That answered it very, very precisely. So if we don't have any more questions from the board, we'll move on to item 11, which is discussion regarding topics for future agenda items. Comments made during this portion of the agenda by individual members shall refer solely to proposals for future agenda items, and any discussion shall be limited to whether or not such proposed items are within the purview of the committee and or whether such proposed items shall be placed on a future agenda. No discussion regarding the substance of any proposed topic shall occur and no action shall be taken. And if there's no other discussion on that item, we'll move on to item 12, citizens' participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the committee. No subject may be acted upon by the committee unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. And I look out in the audience and I see no one. So with that, I'll ask for a motion for adjournment.
Member Tatum, for the record, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Oh. Boy, I tell you, you guys are the crew. You just zip right